Joe Biden, also known as Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. What the hell is a Robinette? Not quite as catchy as good old Joe. He's a man of honor.
We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by you know the thing.
Integrity.
We choose unity over division. We choose science over fiction. We choose truth over facts.
And beyond all reproach.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was in the foothills of the Himalayas with Xi Jinping, traveling with him. I guess we traveled 17,000 miles when I was vice president. I don't know that for a fact. And
today we'll be looking at the 46th president's life and legacy. Born in Scranton, Pennsylvania, Biden moved his family to Delaware in 1953. He studied at the University of Delaware before attending the law school at Syracuse University. Joe Biden was the outstanding student in his political science department, graduated with honors, and has a much higher IQ than you do.
I think I probably have a much higher IQ than you do, I suspect. I went to law school on a full academic scholarship, the only one in my class to have a full academic scholarship. In the first year in law school, I decided I didn't want to be in law school and ended up in the bottom two-thirds of my class, and then decided I wanted to stay, went back to law school, and in fact ended up in the top half of my class. I won the international moot court competition. I was the outstanding student in the political science department at the end of my year. I graduated with 3 degrees from undergraduate school and 165 credits, only need 123 credits, and I'd be delighted to sit down and compare my IQ to yours if you'd like, Frank.
As usual, regular old Joe was born to a wealthy family. But then, in a tragic twist of fate, they became middle class. In addition to having to overcome the horrors of the middle class lifestyle that Joe found himself in, he also had to tackle his debilitating stutter.
I used to stutter like some of you very badly.
Which he overcame, by the way, if you haven't noticed. In 1972, Joe Biden was elected as the junior senator from Delaware. Subsequently, he ran for president 2 times, before becoming the 46th president on his 3rd attempt. The first time he didn't succeed because people thought he was too honest.
Hell, I might be president now if it weren't for the fact I said I had an uncle who was a coal miner. Turned out I didn't have anybody in the coal mines.
The second time was because Barack Obama came along and he was, well, I'll let Joe explain that one.
I mean, you got the first sort of mainstream African American who was articulate and bright and clean and a nice looking guy. I mean, that's a storybook, man. Yeah.
Finally, in November of 2020, at the young age of 78, Joe finally fulfilled his destiny. Because Joe is such a multifaceted and brilliant human being, we'll be looking at different parts of his persona. One of his many talents is storytelling. Nobody, and I mean not one person, can tell a story quite like Joe Biden.
I had a nurse named Pearl Nelson, military. She'd come in and do things that I don't think you learn in medical school, nursing school. She'd whisper in my ear. I couldn't understand her. She'd whisper, she'd lean down. She'd actually breathe on me to make sure that there was a connection, a human connection. And I had a nurse nurses at Walter Reed Hospital who would bend down and whisper in my ear. Wow. They'd go home and get me pillows. They would make sure they'd actually, probably nothing ever taught in, you can't do it in the COVID time, but they'd actually breathe in my nostrils to make me move. But guess what? We got a lot to do. You gotta say hi to me. We go back a long way. She was 12, I was 30, but anyway, this woman helped me get an awful lot done.
I'm Chris Hansen.
The great orators of history like Cicero and Lincoln have nothing on Joe Biden. Like here, where he recounts his Puerto Rican upbringing and his attendance at a black church.
And so I was sort of raised in the Puerto Rican community at home. And let's lay one thing to rest. I may be a practicing Catholic. I used to go to 7:30 Mass every morning in high school and then in college before I went to the black church.
Or that time that he was arrested in South Africa, fighting the apartheid.
30 years ago, Nelson Mandela walked out of prison and entered into discussions about apartheid. I had the great honor of meeting him. I had the great honor of being arrested with our UN ambassador on the streets of Soweto trying to get to see him on Robbins Island.
I had said once, I said I got arrested. I wasn't arrested, I got stopped.
Joe's legacy of fighting for racial justice has been long and storied.
You know, the Persian culture is amazing. As a student of the Persian culture, not a practitioner, but a student, I'm an honorary Greek, not only today, but every day. I probably went to shul more than many of you did. Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids.
But if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
He was also pro-gay marriage since childhood.
It was 1961, and I was applying for a job as a lifeguard in the city pool system because they paid better than the county job I had. And he dropped me off at the town square, Rodney Square, and there were two men in suits like I'm wearing standing in a corner. And the light was red, and they kissed as I was getting out of the car, and I looked back at my dad like I hadn't seen that before, and he said, "It's simple, Joe. They love each other."
The Defense of Marriage Act. We've all voted, not where I voted and others said, look, marriage is between a man and a woman, and states must respect that.
Joe continues to spread his message tirelessly, like here, and here, and here.
Palestinians together at a political level, and Aqaba and as well as Shram.
Yes.
But by far, my favorite Joe Biden story is about his curly leg hairs.
And by the way, you know, I sit on the stand and it get hot. I got hairy legs that turn blonde in the sun. And the kids used to come up and reach in the pool and rub my leg down so it was straight, and then watch the hair come back up again. They'd look at it. So I learned about roaches. I learned about kids jumping on my lap. And I've loved kids jumping on my lap.
Here, he's able to demonstrate his uncanny ability to connect with anybody. We can clearly see that kids love Joe Biden.
Please! Please! No!
Joe doesn't just charm kids, he also likes to charm women. I mean, look at just how comfortable he makes them feel. They're so glad that they got to meet the president. I have never seen happier people in my life. Joe's charm comes from the fact that he's a great father and an even better grandfather. Unfortunately, Joe's first son, Bo, lost his life in 2015 at Walter Reed National Medical Center in Maryland, Iraq.
I say this as a father of a man who won the Broad Star, the Conspicuous Service Medal, and lost his life in Iraq.
Even though his first son was a veteran, Joe is most proud of his second son, Hunter. Hunter Biden is a successful artist with many children of his own. In total, Joe Biden has 6 grandchildren, and that other one.
So let me see, I got 1 in New York, 2 in Philadelphia. There's 3, because I got 1 granddaughter who is, I don't know.
As you can clearly see, Joe Biden is the epitome of fatherhood and grandfatherhood. A model parent that we should all strive to emulate. However, despite all these great things about Joe Biden, as of recent, people have been questioning his age. But how dare you question Joe Biden's acuity? After all, he can prove that he has a much higher IQ than you, and he can do more push-ups than you fat.
And you want to check my shape on, let's do push-ups together, man. Look, fat, look, here's the deal.
Look at all these examples of Joe Biden being perfectly healthy and mentally aware.
What must be what? I'll lead an effective strategy to mobilize true international effort to pressure.
He's a master of emotional control.
What a stupid son of a bitch.
Kindly Uncle Joe. He reportedly has a bit of a temper and unleashes it on his staff.
I'm not joking when I say this. If you're ever working with me and I hear you treat another colleague with disrespect, talk down to someone, I promise you I will fire you on the spot. On the spot.
And even if he does lose his temper, apparently it's kind of hot.
She's turned on by Biden's anger. I am too. I like it. You like it?
What? Fun fact, Joe Biden is a professor in the same vein that his wife, Jill Biden, is a doctor. Meaning, kinda, but not really. Joe is beloved by all.
Let's go, Brandon.
He has by far the highest approval ratings of all time, and a record number of people want to see him re-elected. He is a man that only grows wiser as the years pass, which is really impressive because he already has the highest recorded IQ.
8 EIGH%.
His ratio of IQ to push-ups is unprecedented. In fact, all of his attributes are off the charts. Speed, supersonic. Power, unstoppable. Intellect, immeasurable. Pride in his son?
I'm very proud of my son.
Unbelievable. So if you take all of those stats, do some quick math,
2 + 2 is 4. -1, that's 3. Quick maths.
you start to realize that you definitely get a value over 9,000.
It's over 9,000!
Hold on, you say. There's no way that Joe Biden has the highest power level ever recorded. To that, I have one simple retort. Has anyone ever been as old as Joe Biden? No. No one has ever been as old as Joe Biden.
I pooped my pants.
And as we outlined earlier, his power only grows with age. Unlike us mere mortals, who slowly disintegrate over time, Joe continues to improve infinitely and exponentially, until one day he finally ascends to his final form, Dark Brandon. Or, as we say here on planet Earth, come on honey, leave grandpa alone, he doesn't know where he is. And with that, his ascension is complete. This is the legacy of Joe Biden. And don't let anyone tell you otherwise, because you know for sure they are
The lion, dog, face, pony soldier.